It's time for our discussion segment where we'll be looking at the state of the economy with a special focus on the new levy introduced by the Nigerian Customs Service on import and its impact on local manufacturers and employers of labor. As of February 2025, Nigeria's economy is still grappling with the challenges of inflation, unemployment, and a dwindling naira. The National Bureau of Statistics reports that the country's inflation rate stood at 18.1% in January 2025, with food inflation hitting a high record of 22.1%. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate has risen to 33.3%, with over 23 million Nigerians out of work. In a bid to boost revenue and encourage local production, the NCS recently introduced a new levy on imports, which has sparked intense debate among stakeholders, while some argue that the levy will help protect local industries and create jobs. Others claim that it will lead to higher costs, reduced competitiveness, and even more job losses. So to look at this, we're joined via phone by Steve Nwachukwu, a renowned economist, financial analyst, and a researcher at Steward Asset Management Limited. Now, with his expertise, we'll look at the details of the new 4% levy, its potential impact on local manufacturers and employers of labor, and what it means for the economy at large. Good morning, Mr. Steve. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right. First of all, let's get your thoughts. What's your take on this 4% FOB charge? How would this affect the overall cost structure of Nigeria's businesses, especially those who are dependent on importation of raw materials?
Well, my take would be first. One is a law by the National Assembly, and it says that Nigerian Customs Service is armed with this very law to inflict pain on the Nigerian people and business community. That's what it seems to an average consumer and businessman. One is the Act of the National Assembly in Section 18.1 provided for such levy or charges that Nigerian Customs will use in their quest to modernize the service. Then, on the other hand, you can also look at it from the point of view that yes, it's an administrative charge. Yes, it takes the Act of the National Assembly, but it is totally working against the wishes of government to reduce unemployment, to make the ease of doing business better, and to provide or attend to the issues of the welfare of Nigerians. So these are two ways to look at it. First, it is a law by the National Assembly. Whether you say it's a wrong law or wrongly implemented, one question would be where Nigerians and civil society sleeping when these appropriations of this very law pass through the normal process of lawmaking, where you have also provisions for public hearing where this opinion should have been up. Though there are also some people from other quarters that they during the public opinion or public hearing that they vehemently rejected this very clause that provide for certain levies or certain fees to be charged for modernization. So I think these are the two ways to look at it. From one, it is a law of the National Assembly, but it doesn't wear or have a human face. One thing about government and governance is taking responsibility and being responsive to the kind of programs, kind of policies, kind of laws that your administration sponsors. Do they look to impoverish the people, or do they look to improve in the lives of an average citizen? So these are the things that is before Nigerians to judge this administration. Do they have this empathy, or do they have this sympathy in the current life economic situations Nigerians are passing through? Well, you can't judge Nigerian customs wrongly because it is an act. They are the one to enforce the law by implementing this. The law have provided for them. On the other hand, you also blame the administration. There are too many of these charges, too many of these very high, too many of these very charges or taxes that really, in real situations, it starts dictating the correct economic situations Nigeria are facing. So there is need to review it. There is to also withdraw this very act or this section by going back to the National Assembly. Perhaps look for something better, maybe a 1% or maybe a 1.5%, or totally even striking that very section from the act to give Nigerians the relief that we needed in this time.
All right. We know Nigeria has been on inflation and looking for ways to fight inflation. How bad is it how bad is this, in the fight against inflation that's ongoing, and what ways can businesses create a balance? Because, one thing with Nigeria is what goes up doesn't come down. We've said the lawmakers should put this in place. What is the guarantee that they're actually going to look into it? So say this persists, what ways can businesses create a balance, and how bad does this contribute to the rising inflation in Nigeria?
Well, definitely. One thing about inflation are driven by either supply push factors or which relates to the input costs or input factors. Or perhaps it comes from that very demand push. If you're talking about charges, increased taxes, yes, they have a way of trickling down and reflecting in your financial numbers. Either ways, either you reduce the numbers or you increase the numbers. So either way, it affects or reflects in your inflationary number. In this case, an increase in charges in form of levy will definitely increase that input cost, and in turn, the price of goods and services will go up, and when they go up, when the price goes up, it simply means inflation details or numbers within the full basket will definitely go up. A good number of items fall into fact, 100% of all imported items, except the essentials, except those that have been exempted from levies and the rest, will be charged this very 4%. And 4% is a lot of money. It's a lot in input cost. Putting 4% addition will definitely rise the numbers that government is working hard to make sure that the inflation numbers constant. So on one hand, government wishes to perhaps reduce the inflation number, just like they have a 15% target for 2025. On the other hand, they are planning out policies, they are planning out programs, planning out measures that are affecting the current and pushing these very numbers north. So I don't see the sincerity of purpose, and I don't see the direction the government is really heading. One hand, you wish that inflation numbers will be somewhere around 15% by the end of the year. On the other hand, you are pushing policies and programs that actually will affect those numbers against the current numbers or current rates we have. At the 4.8%, a good number is a record number, and we need to do our efforts to make sure that these numbers head fast, not actually pushing policies that would exacerbate these very numbers we are currently. So there is no sincerity of purpose, there is no clarity of purpose in the sense that government wishes to reduce the numbers where their policies tends towards exactly getting the current situation.
All right, talking about sincerity of purpose, one of the reasons why this was done was to increase revenue generation, and it was looked at, it was it was going to increase revenue generation, and the FOB charge is projected to generate approximately 2.84 trillion annually for the NCS. So the government is actually targeted towards improved revenue generation. But how can the government create a balance, for the need for that actual increased revenue generation through levies and taxes, and also foster economic growth and support for economies and, boost inflation? Is there a way, as in curb inflation rather, is there a way a balance could be created around all of this?
Yes, of course. Striking the balance rests upon the risk assessment. Government needs to weigh their policies. On one hand, the sensitivity of purpose I talked about is your desire and wishes to measure things that are better, while the implementary skills or implementary factors and programs seems to not subject that this very which is going to be achieved. For instance, government needs to weigh the options before them. One, you have a revenue drive, a creative revenue drive that sometimes almost it is very reckless in the way and manner they are weaponizing every single act of the National Assembly. They are weaponizing and they are monetizing every single policy and programs of government to raise revenue. Legislations and programs of government is not all about revenue. They should also have people faith or people centric in the sense that programs and legislations or policies of government should attend to the needs of Nigeria, not just to understand to monetize this very project or these very programs to just raise revenue. The risk is before the government. One, the government stands the risk of losing the greater aspects of development, the greater aspects of the welfare, the well-being of Nigerians, in the sense that yes, you have a revenue target that probably when you implement this very project or implement these very sections of the law that establishes the Nigerian Customs Service, you will earn more than 2.8 trillion by the end of the year. Yet, given, but this will also weigh the cost effect or the consequential effect of this very policy to the economy. The number of people that this very rise inflation or rise in cost with the number of people that will lose their job, the number of people that will not be able to buy these items at the shelf because the cost will go up. So government should weigh these two options before them. You have the benefit of having 2.8 billion accrued to you as a result of the enforcement of this very section of the law. Then you should look at the greater impact to the economy, which is the rising cost of living, the welfare of Nigerians. Does this 2.8 trillion worth the lives that will die out of hardship, that will die out of lack of accessing the hospital because it will affect every single line item? So they should wait. It's an option before the government, not just to throw out this policy. Government should have the ability to weigh this very revenue draft, the consequential effect of this very policy on the generality of the Nigerian people. So I think it's an option before government, and I will advise them to look towards the people and be more mindful of how they try in raising this very revenue. It does not make any sense. You just raised 2.8 trillion, and in the meantime, you are losing more than 10 trillion in your economy as a result of the hard and consequential effect of this very policy on the people. On business generally, 4% is a lot if added to our inflation numbers. Thank you.
All right. Now, given the fact that the government is considering means of revenue generation, and you've hinted a policy reversal, saying that the lawmakers should look into it and, look at it differently. What other alternative way, can be done when it comes to the NCS and revenue generation, and also to satisfy manufacturers and employers of labor in Nigeria and look at the economic situation? What balance can be created, when it comes to considering policy reversal that would favor all parties involved at this point in time?
Okay, there are better options, there are better ways of raising revenue. Raising revenue or widening the tax net is not all about raising the numbers. Widening the tax net, the principle of widening the tax net is not all about raising the number from 10 to 15 to 20. No. You look at the quantity of numbers. You look at the quantitativeness of your tax net. That is what tax net takes. It's not just the number. It's not just raising it from 7.5% value added tax to 10% or 15%, or raising levies or charges from 1% to about 4%, or raising your Nigerian port service charges from somewhere around 70% to 15%. No. One, the tax rate is all about bringing more people who pay tax is paid to pay tax, or who pay tax exchange on that pay. So these are ways of bringing more people, making sure that you close the borders, make sure you have watertight border management.
All right.
It depends that a lot of books are being smuggled. This is the ways of raising your tax net. Custom can detect that all the border lines are well manned, and Nigerians pay for every single item that comes in, than raising the number against the little amount of Nigerians who pass through the main sources of the main channels to bring in their goods and services. Nigerian customs service cannot only carry on. There are a lot of inefficiencies. There are a lot of wastage. There are a lot of leakages. These are ways to raise additional funds. If you drop the linkages, if you drop and stop all the wastages and frivolities, activities and lottery engagements, and make sure that every single kobo counts, efficiency in their spending, yes, there will be enough resources to take care of the administration or modernization of their projects. So I think that's the best way to look at it. Widen the tax net is all about raising the numbers.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Steve Nwachukwu. It's always good to have you. Thank you so much for always joining us on Daybreak this morning with beautiful and fresh perspectives to issues affecting our economy and the financial aspect of Nigeria. It's good to have you on the show. Thanks once more.
Thank you. My pleasure.
If you're just joining us, that was Steve Nwachukwu, a renowned economics and financial analyst there, talking about the NCS 4% levy increase on import duties. Well, we looked at that holistically, and I hope you've been able to pick something off from that conversation.